All right, so here we are after 9 years.
Yeah,
The Flash has finally ended,
yeah. Well,
and
9 seasons, guys. Is what, not 10 years? Is when
well,
Flash start?
well, it's 9 seasons, right? But
Nine
for all we
seasons,
know,
yeah.
it's probably 10 years since this thing
Yeah,
was
yeah.
running, right?
When Flash first air date, I can't remember. I think it's 10 years.
It started 2014 actually.
Right, 2014. Right, okay.
Yeah. So what we'll do here, right? And we will get spoilery if anything, right? So
Yeah, no, yeah,
I
very
will
quick.
just do like a brief as I can run through of this final season. That will be season 9.
Right.
I'll share my thoughts on it, and I want to give like a overall run, well, like not run through, but just more overall view, just looking back in retrospect of the show here, right? Because
Yeah.
surprisingly, I actually have some good things that I have to say about this season and the series as a whole. Like surprisingly enough, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of
Yeah, no.
flaws that really, really, really bring the show down, and it's so unfortunate, right? So what this season does, right? Well, actually, I believe it's probably the shortest season that we've gotten, right? With a full 13 episode run, right?
Yeah.
Like the last two
Because they're
seasons.
supposed to be in the whole Arrowverse, if I remember correctly, supposed to be 699 episodes up to this point. And I think if I heard that it was supposed to be the 700 episode was supposed to be a crossover, no, a big crossover, but like that fall through.
Okay. So yeah, like previously, last two seasons, I believe it is. We get what we call graphic novels, right? So it's like this 3 or 4 part story arc that we get, and then we get something called interlude, where it's just these random episodes. I mean, let's just call them for what they are, filler. But
Right.
they try, but it's not that much effort really put in it. But they sort of connected. It's like little little bits of connective tissue between episodes. So when they jump into like another graphic novel, they'll be like, oh well, remember what happened in this episode in the interlude section? Yeah, it
Right.
kind of comes back, right? So it's not like the show, it's not like the story or the stories or plots stop for this section. It's just that they kind of take the little time. They just
Right.
sort of relax, if you will, right? So what we get here is that well, the first arc, centers on Red Death, right? Which and forgive us,
Right.
but we have to get into spoilers, right?
Spoiler, right? Yeah,
It just
yeah.
so
It's bad
happens to
deal, yeah.
be an incarnation. Well, it's all different Earths and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So it's a different Batwoman, right? As in the second incarnation of Batwoman that we got in the
Right.
series, right? Yeah, and she has, but she has the negative Speed Force in her, right? Because I believe she is the negative Speed Force's newest avatar, right? That's what it is, right? Yeah, so she comes into Barry's Earth and wants to start shit, and her motivation is that she just wants to wipe out all of crime and all of evil and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's sort of like a warped version of the Flash and Batman. I thought that was really cool, and
Right.
also I thought that the logo was actually pretty smart. Like when I watched it, I was like, all right, that kind of stupid, but when I look at it again, it's like, no, it's not the bats symbol split in two. No, there's an arrow between. Sorry, there's a lightning bolt between
Lightning,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Duh. Yeah, so it works, right? And yeah, some chicanery take place, and well, Flash has to do his thing, right? He has to team up with some old villains, and they do their thing, right? But in the process now, well, I forgot to mention too, well, what they set up early on is that Barry has something called a map book, right? So he just has all these future events chronicled in it, just off of stuff that he learned over the past few seasons, right? More particularly on what will happen to his wife Iris,
Right.
and well, the birth of their first child, that would be Nora, right?
Yeah.
Who of course grew up to be excess, right?
Yeah.
um yeah, so while all this is going on now, there's some time stuff going on where, well, actually in the first episode, they actually do like this Groundhog Day kind of thing. So, Barry and Iris sort of wake up on the same day, and it's this infinite time loop, and they sort of sort that out, right? But well, I should say the one takeaway with early on with the season is the character of Caitlin, right? Which admittedly
Right,
the
yeah. That
show
real
just
arbitrary.
constantly tried to find ways to make her relevant. And I mean, I love
Yeah.
the actress, Danielle Panabaker, but
Right.
yeah, in this season, boy, whew, they
So
really
what
try to
character? She
figure out what
was
to
some
do.
kind of goddess or
All right, so what
it's
happened, right? I
it's
didn't
weird.
see, so I'll confess something, right? I haven't seen all of season 7, right? So what happened is that Frost died, in
Died, right.
quotes, right?
And then
And
Clayton got
Caitlyn,
transported or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, and Caitlyn, right? Remember, is like split personalities, right?
Yeah, I get that,
Just
right.
Frost have the ice powers, right? So Caitlyn was trying to find Frost. I think Flash had some issue with how she was going about it, and he destroyed the device, right? But long story short, Caitlyn tries to look for Frost and dies, but she comes back as the character of Keon,
Right.
who,
That
well,
was
she
trying to
why,
remember.
why we call her goddess is that basically she is pretty much Gaia. Like if you like, I was just thinking about her like Captain Planet, right? So she
Right.
taps into Earth and the
Nature, right. I
elements
get
of
that.
Earthness. So she's
Yeah.
Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, right? It's Captain Planet shit, right? Um, and she kind of do this because, well, Frost's boyfriend, Mark Blaine, aka Chill Blaine, right? I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he feeling down bad. Well, not really down bad, but just depressed because, yeah, y'all go on, right? Because he was with Frost, right? It's like, I can't be with Caitlyn because I was with Frost. And,
Right.
he tried to start that thing with Keon, but it don't really work out. And that just fell flat for me, right? But whatever, right? So you have that suffered Red Death, right? After that, you have the interlude where they just, well, pretty much. I actually like what they do here because it is the final season, right? Yeah, they try to, well, basically not try to. They actually like bring some, actually incorporate some characters from other Arrowverse shows, right?
Right.
So one episode in particular had
Well, episode 9, right?
had Nia Nal, who of course is Dreamer, from Supergirl, one of the
Right.
standout
Right.
characters in this. Um, but of course, the big one is episode 9. Yeah, where Oliver Queen returns,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. That's a pretty good one.
yeah, and I heard through the grapevine that he was coming back, but how they worked it into the story, I thought that was really cool. Like, well, what it is that he is still dead, but he comes back from purgatory to help out Barry, right? Because what happens is that Bloodwork, who actually was, I would say, one of the most memorable villains in the Flash
Yeah, when
series,
he were
period, right?
interesting villains, yeah.
Yeah, I actually like his power. I actually like the actor as well too. It's just I felt they didn't really do much of him prior, right? And they kind of try to rectify that here, but still not too much. It's still the whole okay. I just want to use my blood to make people evil and zombie-like, blah blah blah, right? So it was that, right? But I will say, as a reunion between Barry and Oliver, it
It
was
works, yeah.
great. It
Yeah.
totally works. I actually love the final scene where they had this bar and they're talking to each other, and it's
Yeah.
like, and especially that line where Oliver says, "Yo, the lightning bolt shows you." Like I
Yeah.
love that. That's actually a really powerful line, right? So that was great, right? And now we get into the final, graphic novel. That would be A New World, right? And this is where we kind of see what would happen if Eddie Torn, right? Sorry, Torn is Eddie Torn, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. From
Yeah.
season 1, yeah.
Right, from season one, right? If he had survived, right? Because if you remember from season one, I was trying to remember if it was season 1 or 2 or 3 where he died in that one, right?
No,
You
it's
say it was
one. He
1.
died in one. He sacrificed himself to stop one version of the Reverse Flash. That was a big thing in part 1.
Right, right,
But
right. So,
they pay off a big thing with the whole with a Reverse Flash as well, which I really thought they could have like sit down and worked out a little better. But whatever.
yeah, well, we'll talk about it, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that, right? But yeah, essentially him becoming, getting flashlight powers because yeah, he gets hit by lightning as well too, and he is taken, and we learn how is basically through the negative speed force again.
Right.
He is seeing how basically how his life would have been if he became the Flash, right? If he was
Right.
still with Iris, if Nora was his daughter, right? And it kind of, well, unfortunately, because it's the negative the speed force now, he is now more or less propelled now to become an avatar, to become evil as well, right?
Yeah.
And what happens now with Barry himself is that he ends up in different different eras, right? So well, first off, he ends up going back to 2000 where he sees his parents, right? And this is actually on the day before they actually get killed by
Right.
Reverse Flash, right? So I thought
Yeah.
that's pretty nice, right? Um,
Well, they pay
and
off that
all
because that was a finale. That was one of the finales where
yes,
remember a
yes.
future version of himself tell him, "Don't worry about it. Don't fix it." And that's
Oh
Barry
right,
see.
right. I remember
Yeah.
that, and you actually see it repeat here in
Yeah, exactly.
in
They
this
pay it
in this
off. Yeah.
graphic novel, right? But yeah, where it all leads up to is just our heroes having to stop all the villainous speedsters, right?
Right.
Whether it's Zoom, whether it's Savitar, what I mean,
Right.
those
Sabotage
characters, right?
cover.
And
Yeah.
of course Eddie Torn as well, right? And of course Reverse Flash, aka Harrison Wells shows back up as well too,
Right.
right? So you get that as well. And yeah, you get that finale, which I'll talk about in my review, right? So, Ricardo, yes, your thoughts on the season here. After I share my thoughts on this, then we'll talk about the season, the series as a whole. But what do you think about this whole
So
final season?
yeah, I didn't completely hate it, but it was still trash. Like they
Yeah.
really needed to do more of this. And yeah, the biggest crime of all, no Cisco Judge. Jeez, way.
Yes, boy, they
Yeah,
mentioned him man like three times. Like,
yeah,
oh, I'll contact Cisco.
yeah.
He can help us. Like Jesus, man, like he was one of the, like he is a fan favorite, right? And I
Exactly.
know he left in season seven, right?
Yeah.
It's season seven, I think it was, right? That was around the
Uh,
time
I
when
can't remember. Yeah,
when Barry and Iris renewed their vows and shit.
yeah,
That was when he left officially, right? I think he came back in eight as I can't remember. It's a lot, but I'll talk about that, right?
yeah,
But yeah, final season, bro. You couldn't bring him back,
yeah, boy.
Jesus. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, yeah, they try a thing. As I say, they try a thing. Like, we had to understand the context of why it is that people appreciated the Arrowverse for what it was. I get it. A big factor was them movies, them live action movies, and the so-called Snyder stuff was just a mess for real people. So, people just appreciate the material that's handling the characters in, well, for lack of a better term, with workable respect, right? People just couldn't had no patience for what Snyder and them was doing. So like people just use this as a kind of workable reference point. Let us say that. But it went in there. CW gonna CW, and I really think the show should have ended like 3 seasons ago. To be honest,
Thank
uh,
you. Yeah.
yeah, is a problem for me. Like they just. Uh, the problem is that it didn't. It had a lot of potential, and it just waste time on crap, unfortunately. But whatever. This final season, I didn't hate it. This was they do what they had to do. I wish they did more. Whatever. Just moving on. It ends. I still have something I'm holding out hope for, but I don't think that'll happen. Involving Barry, well, involving Grant Gustin, but we'll see. Um, yeah, yeah. The Arrowverse as a whole we'll talk about because it's technically not over because Superman and Lois still going on, and that's supposed to be part of it. Well, kind of, but yeah, yeah, but whatever. They cannot do more. That is all I'll say. But whatever, it's fine. But it's still kind of,
Yeah.
it's still trash. As God say that out loud, it's still trash. Yeah,
Yeah.
but whatever.
I agree with you for the most part, man. This final season, I mean, while I do admire what it is that they did, I'm managed to pull off too in terms of the characters and where they are right now. Yeah, it's still that same sort of scraping the barrel kind of thing that
Yeah,
people have been complaining about with the show for years now, right?
yeah,
So I'll get it good out of the way, right? And this is like I think this is like the secret sauce to all this working. The cast themselves, they are
yeah,
just so incredibly likable.
yeah,
I mean, it doesn't hurt too because they also have great like screen presence as well too, right?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you like seeing Grant Gustin. I mean, you like seeing Candace Patton. I mean, who doesn't, right?
Right.
You like just seeing all these characters together and how they bounce off each other. You like those things, right? Um, and I do like where they take certain characters, so, like Joe West, for example, right?
Right.
A beloved character of mine, played by the great Jesse L. Martin. I like what they did with him too, especially with the end in the final episode
You're
where
right.
he
Yeah.
actually proposes to
Cecile. Right. Yeah.
where he proposes to Cecile, right, played by
Right.
Daniel Nicolette, right? Yeah, that was nice. Like I really dug those things, right? They do the thing, unfortunately, where like everybody seem to have powers.
Yeah. Go on.
So they take my boy Chester, played by Brandon McKnight,
Yeah.
and at the end say, "Oh, well, the reason why you were able to survive this is because
Well,
you had all these cells
yeah,
inside of
here's
you,
the thing
so
with
that
that,
means
right?
you have powers."
Yeah.
Like really, bro,
Yeah.
really,
But here's the thing
really.
too, is that they hint at the ending also being like a potential like sequel bait kind of something. At the end there, it's like wait, they mentioned Max Mercury and he set out some lightning at the end. And, wait, so what?
I'll talk about that.
He trying to
Yeah.
make more flashes? What we're going on here? Like that none of,
I have issues with that, but I'll save that for last, right? Yeah.
like but where's the point of
Um.
that? Like whatever.
Yeah.
As I said, knowing much like with my attitude with Titans, right? It real hard for me to care.
Mm,
I don't really care this ended because yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, well, none of it's gonna really matter in the grand
exactly.
scheme
When James Gunn steps in
when
and does
James
this
Gunn
thing.
steps in. But the thing is, again, knowing okay, so again, this is the rumor bullshit, but it's pure rumor. I don't think I have no actual evidence of this, and I know probably people already it's probably leak already or not. I'm not sure. I don't check up for these things, but yeah, like unless Grant gonna come into the movies in some way, shape, or form, I kind of don't give a shit. Like I just want this to wrap up and then let him get any movies. Because it's a shame that he never get a good, like, he never get that great of a script or a good costume. No. Like, in
Mm,
my humble opinion, the last good season of Flash is season 2. That is a long time
right.
ago.
Yeah.
Long goddamn time ago. They never really, like, live up to that workable quality of storytelling. No.
Yeah,
And,
I will say the highlight for me, I would say where things started to dip a lot though was
4,
after I think it was season 4 or 5
4,
when
4 was
Nora
real
was
bad.
brought into the story. Like
When what?
when Nora was brought into the story. I
No,
can't
4, no, I
remember if that
find
was 4 or 5.
no 4. No, that was 5 because
Okay.
4 was with Tinker. That is when
All
and
right. Oh God.
yeah, and
God.
on paper, I was like, no, well, you finally need to have a villain that not a speedster now. Do something with that, and they just did the worst possible thing. Whilst on paper, I was like, a good idea, but they fucked that up so royally, as it is. Whatever.
Yeah, boy, I forget about that villain, right? But yeah, let's move on here, right? So, yeah, I mean, yeah, like the actors and whatnot, but again, they do the thing where everybody have to have a power, right? Even
Yeah.
Allegra Garcia, being played by Kayla Compton, have to
Right.
have
Right.
a power, right?
Yeah.
It's something that the Arrowverse has been played by. Even Supergirl did
No,
it,
Supergirl in
and it was just
particular
so
was bad.
annoying. Yeah,
Supergirl in
boy.
particular was bad, where
So
everybody had to be a
so you have
hero or
Kara
have powers.
adopted sorry
Yeah.
she foster sister whatever it is her
Yeah.
powers to
Yeah.
some kind
God.
of shit. I can't remember what it was. It was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
goddamn time, right?
Everybody
Yeah.
had powers. Jimmy had powers. Everybody had fucking powers.
Yeah,
Jimmy
boy,
sister had powers.
Jimmy any bullshit.
Yeah, no, Jimmy sister powers. Everybody
Yeah,
either a hero or
boy.
powers. No, like I get it. Like yeah, look, it have a lot of like real world production reasons for that, and disposability, and there's a whole thing, especially right now with all of this shake up, everything being shaked up in the industry, and how uncertain everything is now. I get why even then it was a problem. So whatever, but
Yeah.
dude, they really need to sit down and work this out. But whatever, it's a shame. It's a shame that they could.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So just moving on, right? So a few things, right? Actually admire the effort of making like moments like like dark moments, like really dark moments, like how they went out their way to make us really feel the weight of it. I actually appreciate that. Because if it's one thing about the Flash, right, as a whole, right, why people love it so much, right? Well, I'll bring this up as one of the main problems of the show in retrospect is its optimism, right? It is
Right.
unabashedly optimistic. It will tell you that, believe in the impossible. And once you have friends and family, yeah, family, right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you could achieve things and you could be
Right.
better than who you are, right? And the show itself just has this sort of bright optimism to it, right down to the music as well too. You really feel that sort of thing like,
No,
yeah, this, and
they
they
understand.
build off of that very well.
No, they understand. They understand like how to do the DC material. Again, in
Yeah,
context, I'll say a big reason why a lot of people appreciated this is, yeah, I admit it, Snyder kind of fucked things up for a lot of people. So
exactly. Making
people are
things
just
too
not.
dark,
Yeah, no,
no,
people, right.
unnecessarily dark. Yeah.
A lot of the fan base, including myself, was not feeling Snyder at all. And I remember just thinking, wow, look how them had like Supergirl and Flash had a crossover. And
Yeah. Hmm.
their crossover was so much better than Batman v Superman for me. So I was like,
That was, and it was the first one ever, the first crossover those two had. I
right.
remember that, and it came out, I think, after BVS.
Yeah, right after
Yes.
BBS, and you can tell. Look, like there's a lot of internally within DC, a lot of like weird like sniping and culture, like internal culture, and even a lot of culture war stuff as well. Gets into that whole conceit of who in control of what and why. And yeah, you could find how much comics and cartoons and things just shitting on Snyder straight up, like that's how it is. And
Yeah.
this show was really felt like for a lot of people it felt like an oasis, a safe space. There's a protection from wait, look how they're fucking up DC material now. And well, we could
You could feel proud to be a DC fan again,
right, right,
in
right.
more ways than one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say just to get the gripes to VFX is still it's the Flash, right? You
Yeah,
get what you
TV.
get.
Cheap TV.
How exactly how certain situations are rectified. Like I would say, like honestly, you could tell me if I'm wrong, right? Dog, final episode, right? Your series finale, right? You have our heroes going up against the biggest, baddest speedsters in the world, right? and that shit ended in like about 5 minutes though.
Yeah, they're in business. Yeah.
I like,
Oh,
wow,
Cecile,
wow.
I read it was absolutely hilarious. Cecile was washing out Godspeed. That's funny as hell.
Yes, boy, I watched it. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, Godspeed, this dude, like, Godspeed. One cool thing about him, right, is what he does, like, the clones of himself, right?
Yeah.
And she just doing like invisible
Yeah.
force field shit.
Yeah.
Zoom,
Just,
zoom,
just,
zoom, zoom.
just wash
I'm
them
like,
out quick.
what?
Yeah, real quick. As a finale, it really works, Dread. Like it just
Yeah,
everything
boy.
clearly
Like
rushed. And,
they're supposed to pull out all the guns in this
yeah,
case, boy. But they just
I
rush
think my
everything.
problem. I
I'll
think
tell you why quickly. They
yeah,
rush everything because they had to spend the last 20 goddamn minutes just
saying goodbye.
summing up everything and
Yeah, saying
ending
goodbye. Yeah,
everything. Like,
yeah.
God, man, you give me a 5 minute action sequence, bro. Come on. And
No,
that's and including now, the big final confrontation, between Eddie, who is now Cobalt Blue. I find it
right.
so funny that he's called Cobalt Blue, sorry, but like his lightning streaks are still red, which is
Well,
weird, but anyway, right?
that's a whole thing in the comic, and I think that is in the comic. But yeah, well,
Yeah, I
like I
just
know.
treat it as, oh, well, it's negative speed force, so it has to be red. But I mean,
Right.
Jesus Christ, man, they call the man blue, right? So,
Yeah,
and
whatever.
there's this running theme about a song about, I forgot the name of the song, but something about blue or whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
dog, make the lightning streaks blue. You know what I mean? Let's do that now. But anyway, right? So I wrap it up. But yeah, I mean, action scenes are what they are, though. You can tell where they kind of spend money, where, they have the moments where you have the speeds and moments where they slow and speed up. Like, it's look cool at times. I like how they kind of work around it. But still, it's
It
cheap
looked like
VFX, right? Yeah,
It looked like shit.
it
Sorry.
does. Sorry. You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want with characters flipping off buildings, but it still looks bad, right?
Yeah.
Also, the show rely way too much on flashbacks, though, to the
Yeah.
point that you have to remember shit from season 1, season
Right.
3, so on and so forth. In my mind, literally, while I was watching this, I was telling myself, "Hey,
Well,
remember when the Flash faced Gorilla Grodd, though? And
right.
surprise, the man show up, Dread. I was like, oh
Yeah.
shit! Now I had to remember what happened to Gorilla Grodd
Well,
at the end
yeah.
of his arc, and I was like, what?
In defense of that is that well, it's a final season and they're wrapping things up. So
I
it's
know,
like
I know,
it's a memory lane
but
thing, right? So
right, but I'll bring this up in the overall thoughts of the series, right? It's 9 seasons we talking about, though.
yeah.
Unless you are some massive super nerd, right? Who
You
know
ain't gonna remember
every
that.
single thing, every arc, everything about timelines and speed forces, and you know all this shit, then you will remember each and every reference, right? They even do references where somebody will say a line and then you'll see a flashback. Oh, this is what the character said the same thing. I'm like, I don't remember this shit. And I actually watched a majority, I would say the only season I really didn't watch the entirety of was season 8. I didn't watch the entirety of that, right? I think, yeah, I didn't watch the entirety of 8, sorry, right? But yeah, you asked me to go back to season 4 and 1 and things like, dog, I don't remember all this. I'm sorry, I just don't, right?
Yeah.
But where all this said and done, though, I do like where the story, where everything ends. Of course, Nora is born. I like that they do the thing where the older Nora, with the baby, and like, yeah, nothing wrong with that, man. I thought that was like a nice little time joke. That was like, haha, right? Um, I'll close to this, right? As for the end, I'm on the fence of, right? Like, I understand thematically what happens, right, is that Flash literally, while
Yeah.
he's doing his speed run now, he throws one, I think he throws like about, three bolts of lightning into the air, right? And 3 characters get hit. One
Right.
actually was a character that Bart met in season 8, right? That's
Yeah.
Avery Ho, right?
Right.
And they kind of fell for each other, right? The other 2 characters, Max Mercury and Jess
Right.
Chambers, I had to look it up. They are actually
No,
comic book characters. I think
characters,
Max
yeah,
was I think is a Golden Age character.
Yeah.
I think Jess is a new character that they made,
Right.
during the DC run that's going on right now, right? Now, thematically, I understand what they're trying to set up here. They're trying to go back to like the problem with the other speedsters, right? You're fighting to have all this power, and it's all this about being the fastest man alive, right? I remember that was like the theme from day one, right? I'm the fastest man alive, right? So for the Flash to say, you know what, I think it's time that I share my powers to the world,
Right.
thematically and emotionally, I understand it, right?
Yeah.
but logically it kind of don't make any sense because
It notish.
like
However, I don't
you
care.
still have Nora, you're still gonna have Bart, and you're
Exactly.
still gonna have other speedsters in other Earths and timelines and
Yeah.
whatnot. So what's the point of is it that you're gonna like retire? Is it that you're just gonna throw in the towel? Because
Yeah.
I don't think the show ever says that. He just says
No.
that I just need to share my powers with the world and blah blah
Right.
blah and make it sound thematic and shit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, why give it to these three people that we're not gonna see again? I'm just
Yeah.
asking, you know?
Again, the problem is because of James Gunn, I don't give a shit. Yes, I was like, I
Exactly,
don't give a shit because
exactly.
watching this, I'm like, what is he trying to set up something here? What going on?
I
What's
know,
this?
like
I like,
it's not
whatever,
gonna
moving on,
matter. It's not gonna matter. I don't
moving the
think
fuck on.
even Supergirl or Arrow or even Black Lightning set up anything
Separate, exactly.
anything to look forward to. It's just like they just sort of end, right, and that's it, right. But this was like, oh well, one day you're gonna see these three new flashes. No, we're not, right. But yeah, if I could just rate this season here one time, uh, like 3 out of 5. It died. I'll be charitable to it because it is the final season. It is what it is. The fans will, I imagine, will absolutely love this. I love all the emotional beats and cry. When Nora is when Nora comes into the world, and all the moments that it's just all the emotional shit that the fans will absolutely love, right? Um, but this will do absolutely nothing for people who tune out to the show years
Yeah, for
ago,
real.
right?
Yeah,
But I do admire the effort in terms of just put just ending everything. I will say, right. I will say that, right. Oh, I should mention one last thing before I get to your thoughts on this, your final thoughts on the unwritten on the season here, right. While I do like the Editon story arc, I felt this was 3 to 4 seasons too late.
yeah.
We
No,
could have gotten this, like I
I,
would say season 5. We could have gotten this
right.
because again,
No, season
I
six.
have to go
Season
or
6.
6, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
because I have to remember all this stuff with Eddie and how he was with Iris and what happened in the end of season 1. I don't remember all this stuff, Dread. But you're talking about from 1 to 9, Dread.
hmm
That's a lot of time. That's a lot of episodes, a lot of arcs, a lot of talk about timelines and avatars, right? And I felt like this arc was so integral to the
yeah,
story, to the overall story. But look at where you brought it in, like to the end of like this huge run where this show had, man. It was too little, too late for me, man. But I just felt that we could have gotten this shit way earlier, in my opinion. Because yeah, I was liking that dread, but still in my mind I was like, yeah. By now it's like, really, we now you want to do this, like really, and you want us to care? I don't know, right? And that's really how I feel about this season here, right? I admire what it is that they're doing here in terms of summing up everything. But yeah, ultimately it's just, yeah, why should I care?
right.
But yeah, your final thoughts on rating on this season here.
Right, as I say, look, as I said, they do their thing. The Arrowverse was what it was. I mean, in my humble opinion, Legends of Tomorrow is pong for pong one of the best shows. But even that kind of
Oh,
get
that fell apart, I would say, from
fed up.
season four or
Three,
five. Yeah.
three, yeah, from 4. Well, yeah, right. But no, that get longer than 2 too, and that's the problem. Is that is the CW, is the CW like all of that is part of it. It get longer than 2, and it's time to move on. And look, they do the thing. It's not like some experiment that failed. No, they do exactly what they need to do. It clearly borrow from the Smallville template. They build from that. They do the thing. I thought Supergirl Pong for Pong was probably one of the better shows. They handle the material for what it was trying to do, and I can't be mad at any of it because they do their thing. Like it's not like it's real shit or real trash. I will admit that if the DCEU that get this shit together, we'd have probably be clowned on this more. Let's admit that, right? If the DCU was about as good as the MCU, or at least workably as good as the MCU in terms of like having some sense of structure and material, I'd be clowning on these and this was the same in terms of quality, we'd be clowning on this. But the reason I this step up is because yeah, Zack Snyder tried to do a thing and is a complete mess and whatever. I, as a DC fan, still throw up the DCAU as the high watermark of this material, right? Or how to do this. And the Arrowverse, they do their thing, right? I was never a fan of Arrow, but it's alright show. I see why people like it. The Flash show, Pong for Pong, one of the better shows, but it get long in the tooth. Supergirl came and went, and I think to me stayed its welcome. Black Lightning stayed its welcome. Legend Tomorrow get arbitrary. But you see the problem, right? Like, is comics and is what to do with it and is golden age stuff, and I can't be mad at any of this how it is. As for this season, yeah, terrible. And my main problem is that yeah, no Cisco. That kind of pissed me off. But they could have do more with it and make the material for it to his work. Rating, 5 out of 10. Rating, whatever. As for
Yeah,
the Arrowverse,
that seems fair enough.
as for the Arrowverse itself, yeah, again, the Arrowverse is one of those things that just exists in spite of itself. Like again, if the movies was not shit in the bed, we'd be telling a different story, And is I really want to see what's gonna happen going forward, if any of these actors gonna come back or what gonna happen in terms of who gain what and why. Whatever. Uh, Moving on. I mean,
Yeah,
it lasts 10 years. It exists for its time. If you're a big fan of the Arrowverse, and I am kind of a fan of the Arrowverse. When the Arrowverse was working really at his side, I'll say around again season 2 of the Flash. Season 2 of Legends was pretty good for me as well. Uh, and when Supergirl was doing the thing, and I thought season 3 and 4 of Supergirl in particular was quite good.
mm,
Um, they yeah again when they was ready, they was doing the thing, they do the thing, and it's a shame that we can't get back some of these people, but we don't know, right? Again, I really hope they make the effort and keep something as a shared vision and making it work for what it is. But yeah, as for the Arrowverse overall, I'll probably give the Arrowverse like a 7 out of 10 or closer to 8 maybe because it really got a lot of the material right, in my humble opinion. In terms of like, this is how these characters should behave, this is how they should act. The standouts of this entire Arrowverse, in my humble opinion, for me personally, was Grant Gustin and Melissa Benoist. They were
yes.
excellent. Like they were pitch perfect on how you should handle these characters. Yeah, and yeah, regardless of how I feel about all the problems I have with this Flash show, Grant Holt, Grant
Yeah,
Gustin
yeah,
is my
yeah. He
Grant.
is, and
Yeah,
I would say he is and always will be Flash to
yeah,
me.
he's the Flasher, and and they keep bringing back what do you call him, the old Flash from the 90s. I forget the actor name right now.
John
Judge
Wesley
by ship,
Ship.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. He it was a big template for a lot of people, and then he carry on the time the legacy, and yeah, they make
yeah.
it work
Well,
for it.
well, for me personally, it's just I don't remember much of that old show. I really should recap it.
Right,
Because honestly, I last time I saw that literally when it was on TV6 back in like
right,
what
right,
early
right, right,
'90s, right? So I don't remember much from it except the theme song. Sorry, but
right,
yeah,
right, right.
go on.
But yeah, no, they do the thing. But as I say, with all these other shows just wrapping up again, similar with Titans and on all the DC TV people, where they had look, I have no problem just wiping the slate. The comic people just wipe the slate entirely when it comes to the story. You do some with this crisis crap, and just wipe it and reset. We'll see what's going on with the Flash movie. If the Flash movie gonna be the real wipe out the wiping and reset everything, then alright, fine and cool. And yeah, that is how I feel about anything as it is. We'll see with Flash when the Flash movie comes out, and if it's a proper way to reset any and everything. But yeah, 7 out of 10 closer to 8, they do the thing. I can't be mad ultimately I can't be mad at what they try to do and ultimately how these things played out. Because yes, we could make fun of it and shit on it and blah 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 and make fun. But in context, it's like, yeah, I can see why a lot of people have good memories of these shows because they were good shows. And they last 10 years. Again, it's Smallville all over again. It's Smallville all over again. that
Yeah,
is what
yeah,
it
yeah.
was. It's,
Remember just how long that show went? Like just a
right.
full
And
10
Smallville,
10
Smallville is
seasons.
the same thing for me. Smallville start real strong and then
Yeah,
get
and this
real
end
arbitrary.
terrible. Like
Yeah.
dog, I will just never forget that series finale. Like, oh shit, we're gonna see Tom
Never.
Welling in his suit.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah. Kind of the suit from a distance in a
Yeah,
far away.
boy.
But no, as I say, Akabi, they do their thing. Like, I don't know. I kind of repeat to myself at this point. Like, it's just 10 years pass, the actors move on. People who ever have bad blood or whatever it is. Personally, again, this is kind of scuttlebutt, and I have zero evidence of this because I don't go out of my way to leak anything. But as get scuttlebutt from time to time. My ideal scenario is that Ezra Miller goes away forever into the void, and um they give Grant a couple movies. Like just Grant shows up and you give him a couple movies, and we
Yeah.
have a good, real strong script. He playing roughly the same Barry character. You don't have to be the exact same character, but he gets a really strong script. Give him a great movie suit. He have good movie special effects, and yeah, give him go 2 3 movies, and he's what, I don't know how old he is now, like 34, whatever it is. Uh,
Probably, yeah.
yeah, he could do this for a few years and yeah, and then done forever. give him movie budget level thing. And then, and because to me, he's such great screen presence as a Flash, and that's what everybody
Hmm.
remember. And because you're playing on this nostalgia thing, you have a kind of pseudo nostalgiaism with him anyway now, no? Because you have
Hmm.
a whole generation
Uh,
of fans who grew up with him. It's 10 years. That's a lot of time.
yeah.
So yeah, whatever. Moving on.
All right. Yeah. So let me try to sum my thoughts up in a cohesive way, right? So this is how I see, Flash and this see the Arrowverse as a whole, right? So when it comes to like just TV shows, right? Like seeking out shows that I was just never into, I just never got the time to see, right? I would always look up, best, TV shows of all time and lists like that, right? So I'll throw an example here, right? Work with me, Ricardo. Star Trek, right?
Right.
Yeah, tricky, but him out here, right? So when it comes to Star Trek, right? Like when if I were to do like a best TV show list,
Right.
look it
Yeah.
up, right?
Big
I
big
would
legacy show.
see I
Yeah.
would see TOS, I would see TNG, I
Right.
would see Deep Space Nine, right? I would see
Right.
those three, right? But they are still part of this universe, right? Star Trek, right? So when it comes like just looking back at this Arrowverse here, right? For me, like if I just never was into this show at all, right? And I think the reason why I bring this up too is because they both are within the realm of sci-fi, right?
Right. Right.
So let me just say, like I just never was on. I just never watched Arrow. I never watched Black Lightning or any of those shows, right? And 10 years from now, I just decide, you know what? Let me just check it out for myself and see what you did, right? How I wish the Arrowverse was, where would have been like if it started off with Arrow, right? And Flash and those shows, right? But they would I would say the reason why we remember shows like Star Trek and TOS and stuff like that, right? Why people will always reference those and call them one of the great TV shows or whatnot, is that they always found ways to elevate the material in so much ways, right? So it
Right.
wasn't just an average adventure in space and discovery or whatnot. They actually did things with the characters. They actually developed the characters. They took bold risks in terms of representation and stuff like that, right? They did things that stand the test of time as far as TV and what we remember from TV, right?
Yeah.
That's what HBO does so well, right? You can say what
Yeah.
you want about Game of Thrones, but there's so much standout moments in that show that of course you could put it as one of the greats, right? And Workman, I know it's a huge stretch, right? But this is where I always felt at least one of those shows from the Arrowverse could have been, right? Whether
Right.
it's, well, I should say either Arrow or Flash, right? And everything
Right.
else comes after that, right? Where you look back on it 5, 10 years from now and you say, this is what it did, and this is how
Yeah.
revolutionary it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
back then, right?
No. No. To be
That's how I
fair.
want to see it.
No. To be fair, it was a reasonably progressive show. Like for what
Yes,
it
it
was.
was.
Like
I
yeah.
know.
Exactly.
Hmm. But
Yeah. Especially
I'll get to
Supergirl.
my point in a bit. I'll
Yeah.
get to
Especially Supergirl. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, I would say with Supergirl, especially with the terms of LGBTQ representation. I
Right.
mean, in this case, we had a trans woman actually play a superhero. That was like
Right.
never been done before, right? So
Yeah.
I acknowledge that show for that, right? But what I mean is, like yes, you can watch the Star Trek shows and enjoy them now, right? Yes, there are some dated moments and some things that may not be politically correct, right? But
Right.
for what they were and what they are, how they influence culture going forward, right? And what they were able to do at the time, that's the thing that really makes those shows stand out, right? So as far as the Arrowverse goes, in particular Flash and Arrow, right? Those I would say, as far as superhero shows go, yeah, those two are easily going to be two of the most memorable I would
Right.
say ever in
Yeah.
in pop culture, right? Um, and not just because of how long those shows ran for, but just how they stuck so much to the source material, right? I would
Yeah.
say even more than Smallville, right? Yes, Smallville literally was just a soap
No.
opera,
No.
but
So
with Superman in it,
no. To
right?
be
But this
fair,
one,
Smallville was like what they wanted Krypton to be. So the
uh-huh,
idea of Smallville was to do this kind of proto Superboy show, kind
hmm
of something, and they wanted to form their own mythology with stuff that most fans don't know anyway, so they can just make up what they want. But that's why Smallville was particularly frustrating because they decided to put stuff that was in the comic that was Superman stuff instead of coming up with some good ideas for Superboy. They didn't do that. They just decide, oh well, we're gonna have characters from thing, and it's like, why have a Brainiac and Darkseid? That is nonsense. Like, do stuff that Superman and fight here, whatever, whatever. Again, mad about Smallville, but you get my
yeah,
point, right?
yeah,
In principle, Smallville could have been great. I was say the first 3 seasons of Smallville was really good.
hmm
Because they had some really interesting ideas in terms of like what Krypton was about and that mythology and so and so. But whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I do, in retrospect, I do appreciate how those shows really found ways to make their characters work and function, right? So Arrow, it's we're not doing Batman, but we're kind of doing we own little take on it with Oliver Queen, right? And
Right.
with Flash, we're just trying to take the
AKA,
idea.
AKA, we can't afford Batman.
Exactly right, and
Right.
Flash is just okay. We need to make this guy who just primarily could run fast and can use his speed force, make him likable, and yeah, that the show achieved that, right? Legends of Tomorrow, I really do appreciate that in a way how it just subverted its own self. So it's
Yes.
like what, yeah, let's just kind of make fun of ourselves, right? I just
Yeah.
felt like
But season 1 took itself so seriously, and
yeah,
then season 1 took itself so seriously, and then season 2 they just really showing the smartest of ways. And
exactly, yeah.
became really, really smart and intelligent for what it was trying to do. And yeah, again, winking at the camera, is
Mhm.
it's Teen Titans Go, right?
Yeah,
How to,
yeah, exactly. It's just it's just around the halfway point. They just really didn't know where to go, so like they took
right.
Sarah Lance into space, and it was just all these things
It
that
get
it was
arbitrary,
just
yeah,
more, yeah, it was just arbitrary. It was more spinning its wheel, right?
yeah.
Black Lightning, I really do appreciate it, though. Just in retrospect, for the fourth season run, although I felt we could have gotten one more. Yeah, just in terms of African American representation, right?
Right, right.
But within the context of a superhero, right? So it works there, right? Batwoman, I never got into that. I just
Yeah.
saw the series premiere and flat out hated it.
Yeah,
Ruby
no. So
Rose just pissed
Batwoman
me off, and yeah, I
Batwoman
just didn't
again
care.
Batwoman is probably the biggest failure of the bunch, and I'll say for a
It
simple
is.
reason. Two reasons. First is because of Ruby Rose. Everything leverage off of Ruby Rose. But like, yeah, Ruby Rose is not that great of an actress. Like she was never
Yeah. And sorry, you could sell me the whole, first lesbian superhero,
or whatever,
but
right.
I'm sorry, Ruby couldn't sell it. She just
Yeah,
couldn't.
that was the problem. Yeah, and so that right, that was a big part of it. But the thing is, the simple fact is that they just forget to tell like an interesting, workable story for what they was trying to go for, and I don't know what it was going for. And to me, where I felt they could have done something more interesting is that yeah, they should have like just do or at least something in on paper or in spirit, I should say. Batman Beyond. Like
Yes.
that's what the show could have been. Like the character could have been more akin to a Terry character, no, not really
hmm
Ruby Rose. Because here's the problem: the comics never really do anything that interesting with her, right? In
Okay,
my humble
I've
opinion.
never read any
Yeah,
Batwoman comic at all.
exactly.
Okay.
To me, the comics never really did that anything all that great, in my humble opinion. Like, I know what do I know about this character other than she's a lesbian? It's unclear to me. Like they try to do something with the sister, whatever it is, but like none of that stick or work out. So whatever.
Right.
Moving on. Some
And then well,
fans could correct me about that, because but I as a fan, I would have been aware of that. I think I would have been aware of that because I read some of these comics and I can't remember like what it is about this character that's interesting, right?
yeah.
Whatever. Go ahead.
Right, and last but not least, Supergirl, it's just pretty much the Flash, but just from sorry to say it, it's just from a female perspective. It was just
Right.
like literally like you just got a female Flash and whatnot, right? And it was just so nice, and well, I don't want to say nice, right? But just Melissa Benoist is just so damn likable, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we got 6 seasons out of it. I mean, not all of it worked, but
You're right.
it was still enjoyable for what it
No,
was, right?
yeah. Why it worked is that it basically was a Superman show, but just as her. It didn't feel like
Yes,
she's
correct.
Superman, even though Superman already exists in this world. Uh, it felt like a Superman show on its own right. It's like, oh, she's still a journalist, and they do a bunch of stuff with that, and they make a bunch
hmm
of things. And like a big factor, let's admit it, a big factor was Donald Trump getting through, right? So
Yep.
it has all these women, a lot of women, just mad about that shit. So these shows was kind of like a little template for them. The
Yeah,
show kind of referenced us.
Even Wonder Woman
Right,
reflect that too. The
exactly.
first one. Yeah.
Right. I didn't know. So they make that work for what it is. But I thought the show really shined was when it addressed these like political conceits and just straight up went on the soapbox. Especially season 4. Like season 4 was
Oh, I
straight
remember
up,
that.
right, straight up
Yes.
that. But and it then turned out to be one of the best seasons because it actually made you know a point. Like they made a
Yeah.
point.
I think it was this anti-meta thing. Was it?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
I remember
Aliens. It was
that.
anti-aliens.
Anti-alien. That's what it
Right.
was. I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
that. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
great arc, right?
And they make it work for what it is. And so again, I can't be mad at Supergirl. But when Supergirl was doing this storyline with all the Kryptonian stuff, and then it had the evil Kryptonian, I forget her name, boy, the girl in black. She's a badass in season 3.
Oh,
It, she was,
gosh, I forget her name. Yeah.
it was okay. They was doing their thing. Like they're still telling a solid story for what it was. So like I think all in all, Supergirl is not that bad either. And mostly
Yeah,
because the
agreed.
star. Melissa
Yeah,
Benoist is excellent.
she's
She's just
great.
yeah,
She to me will always be Supergirl, and
exactly.
not what's her face who was in the '84 movie that I
Right.
still haven't seen because I just saw that shot of her freezing a lake. I was like,
Yeah, that's
nope,
real,
fuck that
that
shit,
movie
nope.
is real trash. That movie is real
Yeah,
trash. But no,
I'll probably
yeah,
watch it like a bad movie lime or something like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah. That's what it is.
right. So I get into to my point here, right?
Right.
Now this is where I'm gonna make the statement. I'm gonna compare it to Star Trek now, right? Now, in retrospect, right? Remember with Star Trek, right? How how they were able to just create this world, right? So well in TOS, right? So when time now and the series got canceled, whatnot, they say, well, you could, I mean, all the details, right? Yeah, let me drop some movies, and the
Yeah.
movies continue the story very well,
Hmm.
and then you got TNG from that, and then so on and so forth, right?
Right.
Now, this is why I felt the Arrowverse could have done in retrospect, right? It's, because I know around that time, I would say a few years prior to that, about 5 years or so, yeah, the Marvel Cinematic Universe had begun, right?
Yeah.
So instead of now saying, all right, well, let's bring in Zack Snyder and let him, reboot Superman, even though we wanted to do this for years, blah, 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 right? What they could have done in retrospect was use the Arrowverse now as the
Well,
springboard
all right.
to
So
make the shows.
all of
That's
this,
how, what's I
yeah.
know in retrospect, right? This is how I see it, right? So instead of trying to create a new universe now for the movies, you take the existing Arrowverse and make movies out of those. But it just, like basically, like it's the Firefly Serenity thing, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I get all of that.
You do that, and that's what this in retrospect they could have done. Here's the problem now in retrospect, right? Formula.
Yeah.
Because the CW has a specific formula. And like while I was watching this show, right, I was watching the final season of Flash, I was trying to come up with a proper term as to how to describe it, right? So here's the best term I'll call it in this case, right? We'll wrap up soon enough. This is comfort food, right? So I'll try example. Remember a little show called The Big Bang Theory?
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
A show that many people hate now, but it has. But I think how much season? I think it had like about 7 or 8 or
No, long.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long season, right? And you could tell it ran for this long because of the fans, right? The fans love it so much. They
Yeah.
tune
Good
in
ratings.
every
And
weekday
well,
or
it's
whatnot,
CBS.
and they
So
watch it, right?
and well, it's
But
CBS to be fair. So CBS has had
okay,
it.
right,
Yeah.
CBS, right? But
CBS is
while
run
I'm
longer.
talking about Warner Brothers, sorry, right? That's
Yeah.
that formula, right? But the problem with that show, and I have to say it too, with yeah, all of these Arrowverse shows, they just stick so much into formula, right? So
Yeah.
everything must start and end a certain way. I would say with the rare exception being Arrow and I would say Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and Black Lightning. Like those shows always like they like it would feel formulaic at times, but they will always kind of do things to kind of twist things up a little bit, right? But I would say one of the biggest, one of the shows that really suffer from that formulaic style is the Flash. But it just like as
Yeah.
much as I love the optimism, as much as I really like seeing these leads on screen, yeah, it's that comfort food, right? It's just giving you the
Well,
same
okay.
old
So
stuff over and over and
in
over. You
defense
get
of
that, right?
Flash. So in
Uh huh.
defense,
Uh huh.
slight defense of that, a big problem too is the whole like this is where Black Lightning surprisingly shine. The length of the season.
Yeah.
Flash's seasons I find was way too long. Some of these I because some of them I was watching, I was like, this wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't 20 goddamn episodes or whatever it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So like a big fact again, that's part of the formula. And look, they had to have a weekly show to get a ratings for the week and make sure they have a sweep show and all kind of thing. They can't be doing the no short thing HBO bullshit now. They can't be doing that. So
Right.
I get it, right? But yeah, boy, too much fluff, too much filler.
That's the thing. Too much
Mm.
fluff, too much filler, and I'm wrapping up a little bit, right? But you see, with the formula now, and because I should really look up one of these days how big, in quotes, the fan base is, because I know it have
Right.
people who love the Arrowverse, who love Flash, right? And probably were over the moon with this finale, right? But I mean, like I mean, at a point in time, it's like it just feels like the same old, the same old same, right? So in retrospect, why I felt we these shows could have done, right? Before, like, be a little bit more self-aware and understand, okay, we kind of doing the same thing over and over and over, because we talking about like 6, 7, 8 seasons of these shows. At least Black Lightning was smart enough to say, yeah, you know what, I think I done here now, you know what I mean? But when we talk about 6, 7, 8, man, it's like, all right, come on, what are you doing here, right? Um, So I just felt like if they just more focus on just trying, like in terms of just elevating its own formula, not just
Yeah,
elevating the material itself. Yeah, like we could look back at the show, at these shows 10 years and from now and, be like, yeah, this is like how, I don't want to call it the Trek verse, whatever it is, but this is like what Star Trek is, right? And, again, going back to the whole Star Trek movie stuff, yeah, we could have gotten movies out of these shows here, but
yeah, no,
no, they just play this game with we're trying to catch up with the MCU and they're looking bad as a result. So now, these CW shows and, whatever have to try a lot. Sorry, well, the Arrowverse shows now have to try harder now to pander to the DC fans, but they're still working with budgets and they're still working with the same formula as
yeah,
before. So yeah, even DC fans just kind of get tired and just don't care, right? Even
yeah,
when shows try to do something different, like Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, and Supergirl, right? So at the end of the day, the Arrowverse will. I don't. I wouldn't want 5 to 10 years from now, people look at the Arrowverse with disdain and scorn and say, "Oh, this is shit and poor quality and bad acting and blah blah blah." Nah, they really did put that effort into breathing life into these characters, even
yeah,
characters that we don't even know about, like like the Legends of Tomorrow. I knew nothing about these characters, or even if they were comic book characters to begin with, right? But the show actually did that. I didn't even know anything about Black Lightning to extent until this show came out, right? So I will applaud the Arrowverse for what it is they did in terms of making it kind of cool to see comic book shit on TV, right? That's what the show did, right?
yeah,
Sorry, that's what this whole verse did, right? It's just is formulaic TV, it's comfort food TV stuff, instead of like really pushing the envelope and really pushing themselves to see how we could like elevate the material, and that's what really makes a great TV show a great TV show. How they were just able to just take its own material and just find ways to just push the envelope a lot more and really grow, let it evolve and grow. This one just stuck to a comfort zone and just kept doing it for season and season and season and season and season. And that's why people got fed up ultimately, right? But yeah, the Arrowverse itself as a whole, I will remember this for a while. Can't say how long, to be honest. So if I could rate the Arrowverse as you did, um, just a flat out 3.5 to a 4 out of 5, man. I would say watch it. Will it be remembered in the discourse when it comes to superhero representation? I guess, but I do hope that in 5, 10 years from now, people aren't gonna look at this and be like, terrible acting and
right,
poorly fleshed out characters, and they couldn't find anything for Caitlyn to do and stuff like that, right?
yeah,
You could kind of look past that and see the effort that was put into it, right? It's just unfortunately you had to kind of pair this along with the DCEU,
right,
and just how it was floundering about from day one with Man of Steel. Let's be real
right,
here.
yeah,
But I just felt just touching on Star Trek one last time, just repeating myself. If they just go on the Star Trek route and basically take the TV stuff and make movies out of the TV stuff, right? So
right.
introduce Superman in, I don't know, Flash or whatever, and then give him his own movie and let that be Man of Steel, right? Introduce Wonder Woman in, I don't know, Supergirl and let that be Wonder Woman, right? It could be Gal Gadot. I don't care.
I get what
Something along like
no, I
that,
get
man,
what you're saying.
But
No, it's
no,
just but again, it's same reason why I think it's highly unlikely that Grant will even going to show up in a movie. A lot of this is to do with production stuff, and again, the studio, and is most of this is production shit. So
yeah, yeah.
whatever. That's why,
And
like,
and, and as they say, Grant Gustin, right? I'll close with this, right? Grant Gustin for me will always be the Flash, right? I
yeah,
mean, in a couple weeks we'll see, or 3 weeks I think we'll see what we get here with the Flash, though. We all speculated that Grant might make an appearance here.
right,
It'll be maybe, who knows? I don't know. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like even something like that could have been like a headlining movie where Grant could
yeah,
have been the star, right?
yeah,
But here we are, right? With the DCU still trying to play catch up, right?
yeah,
Even though it's on its way out the door, so to speak, right? But yeah, I feel in retrospect that's what we could have gotten, but instead it was just this race to catch up with the Marvel with the MCU. And it's so funny, and I'll close this, right? Even the Marvel stuff is doing sort of like the reverse of what I was telling you with the Star Trek formula, if you will,
right,
because they have the movies now, and now they have TV shows that spring
yeah.
up from the
Yeah,
movies.
exactly. Well, the
Think
Marvel,
about that.
no, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so big that it could go small now.
Yeah, yeah.
They do
This
it
is what
backwards
I
now.
felt the Arrowverse could have done. Like they already
Yeah,
started off small, but they could have gone big with the films. But
yeah,
no, we can't do that, man, because we're playing catch up, man, and it's unfortunate, man. But yeah, the Arrowverse will be remembered, but I do hope that in the long run it will be for the right reasons, right? And not
Yeah.
just the unfortunate ones, right? And that's all I have to say.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, most of that stuff just can't happen simply because of the nature of the industry as it is, and again, it's who in control and who have blah 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 pulling wire string. But yeah, Greg Berlanti should have gotten a seat at the high table in that sense, right? And he should have a little more power. But he control what he control. They give him what he give, with respect to the licensing and the material, and they do what they had to do. That is, so it's not that. As I said, I really hope they throw Ezra Miller in the Phantom Zone somewhere, and then
I love it.
and then get Grant to come in. That is my ideal scenario, but I don't think that's gonna happen. If it happen, I'll have a smile on my face, great, but that probably won't happen. I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, but we just to get into the extra thing, they better not continue to Ezra after this, because that's a death sentence in my humble opinion. But whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even if even if the Flash is successful, I still don't think that studio will even allow Ezra to,
yeah,
to be in another Flash film.
yeah, ridiculous.
Or
Whatever.
on a DC film to begin with, because
Yeah, no,
look at
yeah.
all the shit he was doing all year, right?
Yeah,
Whole
it
year,
is
sorry.
really ridiculous. But you let them do their thing for one last movie and then enough. But whatever. Uh, well, Godspeed Arrowverse, right? You just give it a salute. It did its thing. You can't be
Mm.
mad. A lot of, close to 700 episodes, 699 episodes, that ain't bad. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and on top of that, the Superman show, which I generally like, still going on. It's not like that got
Hmm.
cancelled, so it's technically still the Arrowverse going on, I suppose.
Yeah,
Technically,
but
in
as
quotes,
a
but
touch on
whatever.
that, that will technically be the only one because
Right.
Stargirl is done
It
and
done, yeah.
Titan's
Everything
done,
done, yeah.
and Doom Patrol is wrapping up. So
Right.
what will be the future of, well, CW DC stuff?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
If they were smart, they could have use the movies as a springboard for what we get on TV. But again, you say there's stuff behind the scenes, right?
Right. Right.
Sorry, it is what it is, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
moving on, moving on.
Right.